Boys and girls, welcome back. We got Josh Culibao in the house, professional MMA fighter. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm happy you pronounced my last name correctly.
Well, I made sure to look it up beforehand because it does confuse me. But did you have people pronounce it wrong in the lead up to your last fight?
A lot of people. Not even my last fight, but throughout my whole life. Like even as a kid growing up, then pronouncing my last name when they were handing out awards and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I get that problem as well. Dougal is like a hard name to pronounce and nobody has it. You get a lot of Dougal. I just say it's Google with a D. But yeah, so you just came off like your first UFC fight, which was a loss to Jalen Turner, but it was a fight on short notice, right? So UFC came to Australia and you got 2 weeks notice and you had to move up a weight division. What was your overall experience to that like?
To be honest, as soon as that opportunity presented itself, I was gonna take it with both hands. I wasn't gonna say no to that. It doesn't matter if I had to fight at heavyweight. You know what I mean? As long as I was able to get a fight in there and get my foot in the door and be able to get my foot in the door, and now I'm here and I actually get a proper contract and a proper fight with these guys. So it's just an opportunity and I jumped at it. This is a lifetime goal, and it's like knocking back a lottery ticket that's a winning lottery ticket, you know what I mean? So it's the same thing. So I sort of jumped at it,
Yeah, well, there was a lot of people who, at least in the media coverage I saw about you, who really get around, like, particularly your attitude.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of, like, very happy, very ambitious. I think was it Chael Sonnen who was calling the fight and said he loved you in, like, the lead up?
Oh, no, it was Dan Hardy. And, throughout the whole fight week, whenever I did run into anybody, I was just trying to soak in everything, trying to be like, take everything in, and that in itself was like, I don't know, I was just embracing it all. I'm just basically just a fan, as much as I am a fighter, I'm just a fan of this sport. So like me seeing all these other fighters as well and just being through this whole experience, it's enjoyable because I am just a fan. So all this media stuff, seeing the other fighters, the weigh-ins, ceremonial weigh-ins, all of it, it's like, as much as weigh-ins usually suck for me, it was like a good just a good fight week for me. It was just trying to take it all in.
Well, so how are you preparing for this fight? Because this guy's a big dude. Like, at 155 pounds, I don't know how many kilos that's is.
70.7 or something like that. So,
right, and this guy's like 6'3" or 6'2" or something.
It's ridiculous.
He's really like, even though everyone's the same weight, there is this kind of like this talk or concept in like MMA where you can be big for that weight.
Yeah.
And he's like big for that weight.
For sure. What they mean by that usually is that they cut a lot of weight so that they are big, you know what I mean? So usual guys that do fight around that 70 kilo weight division, they usually walk around like the 85 to 90 kilos, and then throughout their fight camp, they cut the weight and they make that 70 kilos. So if a person that usually fights around in my weight division walks around 75, 80 kilos. So it's like, you can tell like 5-10 kilos every weight division. It's like, that's the size difference. But Jalen especially, man, he's just, I don't know how you can be 6'3" and weigh 70 kilos, and still like be able to function.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, we know one of our mutual friends, Charles Joyner, is he's massive.
He's a tall guy for his weight.
But run me through kind of that fight week. So, like, how are you preparing for this fight? Because, I mean, you probably wouldn't have guessed that you were fighting this guy until you got the call,
Exactly.
What was your game plan to fight a dude who was, like, that big?
To be honest, it was just wing it, to be honest. It's funny that you brought up Charlie because I actually used him as one of my sparring partners, one of the very few sparring partners that I had to get ready, because it's hard to find guys that are, that height, let alone close to that weight. But, Charlie walks around 90 kilos, and I got another friend, a close friend named Joel Kendrick, who walks around, like 95 plus kilos, and he's 6'4". So a lot of these guys that are at that weight, at that height, usually weigh a lot more than I do. So it was hard to find sparring partners, you know what I mean, and try to even get sparring partners to get ready for a guy like Jalen. So it was already an uphill battle from the start, you know what I mean.
Well, how did you feel in the fight? Did you enjoy yourself?
Oh yeah, 100%. They all say the bright lights of the UFC get to a lot of people, especially when it's your UFC debut, and there's 10,000 screaming fans, and there's celebrities in the crowd, there's famous UFC fighters in the crowd, there's officials. It's it gets to a lot of people. But for me, it was like walking out and then playing my music. It just felt everything just felt natural. You know what I mean? It felt like I belonged there. Like for the longest time, ever since I was chasing this career, we've always pictured, a lot of MMA fighters picture their first walkout, especially in the UFC, of being underneath the bright lights, the camera in your face, your music's playing, the crowd screaming. So, everything felt like, everything felt like it just belonged. Like everything just went into place, and fighting in that cage is, it's no different to any other fight that I had, besides a little bit more noise from the crowd screaming at you. So, it felt good, but again, a step in competition. I wasn't fully prepared, and I was fighting upper weight division against a guy that's like a specimen, like a Jalen, a specimen like him. So everything was an uphill battle, but I enjoyed myself in there. I enjoyed the whole process. So next one, now I get to do it properly. So I'm excited for that one.
That's great. I'm excited too. Now, you had a little injury in the fight, which is going to keep you out for how long?
5 to 6 weeks.
And what's that? You tore your meniscus?
My MCL. So I got a grade 2 tear MCL. So it happened in the fight. I was circling across the cage, and I was skipping side to side because Jalen was obviously trying to cut off the ring. So I was skipping side to side. My ankle got caught on the cage. I twisted my ankle, but it wasn't my ankle that gave out. It was my knee that blew. So as soon as it happened, usually the punches and kicks and knees to the face and stuff, you really don't feel it in the fight.
Right.
But when that happened, I could instantly felt that instant pain in the leg. So I was like, so I'd done something serious, and so then it turned out, and I got stopped from that. So I injured myself. I basically injured myself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it happens, man. But you did keep on fighting like a champion. Tried to get him on the ground.
I tried to. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, so you mentioned that you may be looking at a future UFC card, hopefully when it's back in Australia.
Yep.
What are kind of the chances do you think of getting on that card, or what's the kind of next steps for you?
Well, first things first is obviously I want to get myself, back to 100%. So I want to fully rehab my knee, and then take it from there. But if I was, I'm already talking to my manager about pushing me to get onto that UFC Perth card in June. So hopefully when this heals and I get medically cleared to fight, then I'll be more than likely be on that card. So awesome.
I bet the UFC would have appreciated you stepping up.
They did. They really did appreciate me stepping up and filling up a spot for them, because they know what's at risk for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you had the undefeated record.
Oh yeah.
This was someone mentioned that it was that in MMA, when you take a loss, it's not nearly as bad of a hit as in boxing, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get some losses on your stat sheet, then that kind of maybe ruins or has a much bigger impact on how people see you.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Floyd Mayweather, who achieved the 50 wins and 0 losses, sort of made that a thing, because obviously he's undefeated. Obviously he makes the most money. It's having that clean slate makes you seem more.
There's a bit of a mistake about you.
Yeah, that, and it's to the casual fan, it's they look at that and oh well, no one was able to beat this guy, so they automatically assume how good this guy is just because nobody's beaten. But you could bash 28 trash cans, you know what I mean, tomato cans, and get an undefeated record. But what does that really mean until you fight somebody that's a good fighter? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I mean you look at a guy like Connor, who's had a few high profile losses. He's got beaten up in a couple of fights, but he's still the number one guy.
Yeah, he is. But he's fighting the best competition out there.
He is, and he takes them. He doesn't care.
No, he doesn't.
I really like that about him. That he wants to go and fight, knowing that he might get beat up.
Exactly. He goes out and just fight. So you got to commend that, you know what I mean? You got to commend somebody that's going to go out there and fight the best, and he doesn't care about undefeated record or not, or looking stupid in front of people.
Yeah.
He says what he thinks he's going to do and goes out and tries to do it. So
yeah,
you got to commend a guy like that.
Who are your favourite guys to watch? Who are you a big fan of at the UFC at the moment?
At the moment, man, there's a lot of guys that like I said, I'm just a big fan of this sport. There's Dominic Cruz, who I've been following for the longest time. He's probably, in my opinion, the greatest bantamweight in all of MMA.
Yeah.
And then I've obviously like Israel Adesanya. I love his fighting style. You know what I mean? Like being able to switch up, fight both stances as well. Predominantly more of a striker, long rangey.
What did you think of UFC 248? There was obviously the awesome women's fight between Weili Zhang and Joanna.
Yeah.
And then there was a hard act to follow for Izzy and Yoel Romero.
I think the crowd there and a lot of people that are watching obviously got that bloodlust of like they've seen a fight like that, like one of the greatest fights ever. To back that up on top of like, you know, to follow that through, like it's tough. But with the game plan with those two, that fight, the way it played out, I think is exactly the way Izzy approached it, is the way he should have approached it. Like, you got a guy like Yoel who can at any second explode and, you know, put your lights out. And then, you know, for Izzy, you know, he just picked at him. And if he's not getting a reaction, Izzy is more of a counter fighter. So he's waiting for you to do something for him to counter. Okay. So with Izzy trying to probe a reaction, not getting the reaction, it's not, he really can't set the tempo. So he usually does best against guys that come forward at him, like his last fight, which was with Whittaker who was trying to get to him, and he was able to capitalize and be able to knock him out from him coming forward. So it's that a lot of people watch that and be like, oh, it's a boring fight, but he did what he had to do. You know, at the end of the day, winners get remembered, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So losers, they forget about them. So winners make history. Winners are the guys that get remembered. So he did everything, and he had so much to lose. His undefeated record, to lose his title, he just had to pick at him. You know, he did the right thing instead of trying to please a few drunken fans. You know what I mean? So it's like, he did the right thing, in my opinion.
Well, what would you say your fighting style is? So like, he's on the outside counter fighter. Do you have a style in particular?
I'm much the same, but I feel like I'm more of a proactive counter striker, which means I will come forward, and force you to counter back at me. And then once you've started to counter back at me, I feel like that's when I start to capitalize on your weaknesses, on you opening yourself up. But yeah, very similar. I feel like I can fight both stances. I don't know. I fight everywhere, so it's tough to say. It's hard to explain what. Maybe if you could ask one of my opponents what my style is like.
Yeah, they'd be able to say it better.
Maybe they can say it better, but for me, it's
Yeah. Well, so you had three regional titles, 3 Australian titles before you went into the UFC.
Yeah.
So how does that kind of landscape work? Like, do you just fight in different promotions at the same time, or like what's it like for an Australian fighter trying to make it eventually into the UFC? What do they have to do?
Man, to be honest, even though I was 8 wins, undefeated with 5 knockouts, and holding three major titles in Australia, you know, 3 of the 5 or 6 major titles in Australia, it wasn't even like guaranteed that I was going to be, and even being ranked number 1 in the country still wasn't enough to be like guaranteed a spot in the UFC. For me though, one of my close friends, Jamie Malaki, who actually pulled out from the fight, he had an injury. He told me he didn't know if he was going to make the fight, so he messaged me and said, look, start gearing up to get ready to fight. So, you know, he gave me the heads up, and then I told my manager, like, look, this looks like there's going to be a spot open, man, try to get me in there, blah blah blah. So basically, if it wasn't for him pulling out, I probably wouldn't right now still be like not in the UFC.
Right.
So yeah, it's tough.
What do you think it is about the UFC? Like, they're obviously, like, you get the other promotions like Bellator or like ONE FC, but Does within the fighters, does everyone just want to go to the UFC? Like that's number one. That's like gold standard.
For a lot of people, it is the gold standard. A lot of people think that one is the gold standard. A lot of people think Bellator is the gold standard. But like, for me personally, the UFC is the pinnacle of the sport. It's where the best of the best go. You know, the best fighters all go to the UFC, and then they obviously all want to be a champion. So to say that they're the best of the best. Yeah, for anybody chasing, I feel like it depends. I don't know. With any of those big promotions, they're all good promotions. You know what I mean? So it's tough.
Would you be happy to go fight one of those promotions if you got the opportunity?
Well, now that I'm in the UFC, no. But
so you're under contract, right? Like with the UFC for more than just one fight.
Yeah.
Oh, that's big congratulations.
Yeah. No, because so I got my foot in the door. Like you said, they really appreciated me stepping up and fighting up a weight class and putting my undefeated record on the line.
Yeah.
So they so now they said, look, you step in, you help us out. We'll give you a proper contract, and we'll get you back down to your weight division, and you can show us what you can really do on a full camp, and So.
Is the money better than in the normal Australian promotions?
Oh man, so much better. So much better. That like literally fighting in the Australian MMA scene, you're paying more in training fees and medical fees than you would, making back from the fight.
Right.
Especially the time spent getting ready for these fights, and the dieting, the nutrition side of things. You're spending more in training fees and medicals than you are making back off winnings from a fight. So yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and I don't know if you make much if you lose, right? You gotta hope you win.
Yeah. Exactly. Unless you're a local boy who's able to sell, a couple of hundred tickets, then you're making some money, or sell out some tables, then you're making some money. But
right.
Other than that, nah. It's like I said, it's tough. It's a tough gig for that. For these guys.
Well, I was watching one of your videos online, like one of the promotional ones when you were trying to get into the UFC, and you said you started like martial arts following your brothers.
Yeah.
So your brothers fighting now as well, or like what? How did that situation play out?
So right now, so my eldest brother Justin, who I call Kuya, he's actually Kuya, which means older brother. So that's why I call him Kuya. So Kuya Justin is when we were younger, he started off doing Taekwondo, and he ended up getting his black belt in Taekwondo, and then me and my brother Joseph, who's the one just older than me, so I'm the youngest of four, we just ended up following Justin. So we just followed him, trained a few years, and then Taekwondo, and then me and Joseph ended up branching out to do like kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, while my brother still continued on with Taekwondo. But right now, Justin's stopped completely. He's more focused on business side of things, and my brother that's just a bit older than me, Joseph, he's actually got kids, so he's focused on the family life now. So he can't. He was fighting for a while, like when we first started, like when I first turned pro, for the first probably 2-3 years, he was fighting, but then obviously became a dad, and it's a lot harder to be able to train and have to worry about that stuff too. So he went down the family route, and I'm more on the career now of this.
Yeah. So how old were you when you started training, or at least started Taekwondo?
Taekwondo, I was about 11, 12, and then I did that for about 3 years, and then I transitioned when I was 15 into doing jiu-jitsu, and then jiu-jitsu, kickboxing, MMA all together, mixed it all together when I was 15. So I'm 25 now, so 10 years I've basically been doing it. So
yeah. And how's it going? What do you like training the most?
What do I like? I like, honestly, I love everything about this sport. Everything from the physical side of it to the technical side of it to the emotional side of it to everything about this sport I love. Like I'll train all day, right? I'll train in the morning, I'll come home, I'll rest, I'll train in the night. And then when I come home from training, I can't switch it off. It's like I'll come home, I'll lay in bed, and the first thing I do, YouTube. Yeah. Then I just start watching fights, or I start watching some jiu-jitsu, or I start watching some wrestling. Anything to do with combat sports, I'm obsessed, I don't know. It's either like an obsession or just like a real deep passion. But like I'm I love this sport.
How do you this is one question I always think about is like Australia doesn't really have like a wrestling culture so much as like other countries, particularly America.
Yeah.
Because like you get these guys, just like some killers in the high school and like college scene in America.
Yeah.
How do you kind of like adjust for that, or how do you train for wrestling?
To be honest, it's as much as if it is a culture, I feel like that type of wrestling, that freestyle wrestling, is some bits of it is useless in MMA, because obviously you have to worry about getting close without getting punched, kicked, kneed.
Yeah.
You know. So I feel like wrestling for them is different. It's just like how do I put it? It's like I feel like it's just like gi jiu-jitsu for MMA. Like some bits of gi jiu-jitsu works well, and some of it just doesn't. You know, it's just like inapplicable because you're getting punched in the face while you're trying to grab onto a sleeve or something. You know what I mean? In the MMA you don't have anything to grab onto. No gi top to grab onto, no pants to grab onto. So it's some of it's applicable you can use, and some of it you can't. So, and to deal with wrestlers, you know, I feel like a lot of wrestlers they like to be the bully. You know, I've faced a few guys that have like really good wrestling, and they tend to be guys that like to push forward and be the guy dominating. Where if you were to do that to them, you know, put them on their back, you know, it's roles reversed. They strip, you know,
They
crumble.
struggle.
Yeah, that's it. You know, they crumble. That's it.
Yeah. So you're training out of 2 gyms right now. I think there was Australian top team, and is it Eagles MMA?
No, I'm only training out of 1 gym.
Okay.
Eager MMA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's that like? What's that gym like?
It's a funny gym because at that gym I've got no other fighters besides myself.
Right.
No active fighters besides myself. A lot of the people that I train with are just people that love the sport too, that just do it for a hobby, you know, to stay fit. So it's more of like as much of it is like a fight gym. It's like there's we get a lot of tourists coming into the gym, and so because it's based in Bondi Junction, we get a lot of tourists. So it's a good gym, and me and my coach get along really well. You know, he's like a father figure to me. You know, more than just fighting, he's actually like a life coach because he's got so much experience in life. But yeah, it's an awesome gym. I get along with my coach. You know, we just click, and yeah, he's gotten me to where I am now from the jump.
Well, that's great. So for people at home, they've got this Perth card that we can look forward to. Where can people follow you, like when they want to keep up with you and you know your journey and your mixed martial arts career?
So I'm on Instagram at Josh Culibao, so Culibao. So Josh Culibao, Culibao. And yeah, I've got a Facebook page, Joshua Culibao, MMA fighter. If you can follow that, I post all my stuff on those two mainly.
All right, cool. Well, before you go, why don't you give a shout out to your friends who run the Humble brand?
Yeah. So it's pronounced humble. Okay, it's spelled humble, but it's humble. Show
the camera the shirt.
Shout out to Nick, always hooking us up. You know, the best active wear. It's comfortable and you know it's good for casual occasions. So shout out to Nick from Humble Fit.
We did brought this one for you as well. This is a CHP muscle shirt. You get them online at carnagehouseproductions.com. It's been great having you on, Josh. I look forward to seeing what your future career's got on.
Thank you.
If you want to support Carnage House as well, you can like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Instagram, and if you really like us a lot and want to give us some money, you can support us on Patreon. Also, if you're wondering about the painting, that's what our little sis did in the back. She's doing our production stuff as well. So if you want a painting done, you can potentially ask her. And if you're wondering why it's a bit not straight today, it's because we haven't found the proper way to hang it up yet, but we're going to get it in a sec. But anyway, it's been good talking with Josh, a good fighter profile, and we hope to have you on a lot more times as you go through your career.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on.
All good.